What's up, everyone? This is Z, and this is Reels Movie Podcast, and I'm doing something different. I'm adding a new show to the podcast. We're going to be talking about issues inside of Hollywood. And today, I actually have a special guest, a friend that I've known for, what is it, about 5, 6 years now?
Yeah, it's like at least 5 years, at least. Yeah.
5 years. Great person, great overall human being. This is Roger Connors. Roger, welcome.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm so excited. I'm excited to see this take off for you. It looks like it's doing really well, and I'm listening. You're keeping my attention, so I'm excited to jump in with this.
Well, thank you. Actually, I came to you with this idea, and you jumped at it immediately.
Hmm.
So the first topic we're going to talk about is pretty much an ongoing issue for the past. What do you want to say, about 10 years now?
I gradually increasing over the last 10 years, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna be talking about comic book movie slash superhero fatigue. If you don't know what that means, is there's about 6, 7 comic book movies released a year, and some do great, some do not so great, as we'll talk about. But we're going to talk about if there is a fatigue in the superhero slash comic book genres.
I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this have felt it and will agree on the topic that this is something that even the diehard fans at this point are starting to realize just how much material is being thrown out. And I think the question is whether or not, that can be the strongest material it can be when you're pumping it out at such a fast pace, at such high volume.
Well, we do have multiple companies doing this. We
Yeah.
obviously have Marvel and DC, and we also have stuff like Lionsgate with their release of Hellboy earlier this year.
Oof.
Fox recently just lost the X-Men franchise to Marvel on their completed sale from, I think this year was
Mhm.
the official sale. And so we have all this other stuff, but is there, and plus we also have Netflix shows. Well, not Netflix shows anymore, but
Mhm.
the Netflix shows, the TV shows.
Streaming content in general, just like, yeah, streaming is really changing the face of superhero content in general, because if I would say we get more of our comic and superhero based material now via streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and DC, whether or not that's going to last based off of how poorly they're rolling out their titles right now. But there's so many platforms on streaming alone that it's overwhelming.
Well, let's start with the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now, Disney will be releasing their Netflix this year, and we've already seen the huge amount of content that they're releasing for the streaming service alone,
Hmm.
based off superheroes. We have, what is it? Bucky and
Scarlet Witch
Falcon.
getting a show.
Scarlet Witch is getting a show. Loki's getting a show.
Yes, Loki is getting a show. Hawkeye is getting a show, I believe, as well, isn't he?
Yes, and there's so much. I mean, it's cool that they're expanding on
Yeah.
these characters.
Yeah, yeah, I will say that's an appeal to me. Like, honestly, right now, speaking for myself, if there's anything that's going to grab my attention, I think it's something that's going to lean towards some of these characters that we haven't become overwhelmed with. Like some of these characters we've seen movie after movie after movie. How many iterations of Spider-Man have we seen alone within the last 10 years? You know, uh, I'm all for a fresh approach to fresh material. So from that aspect, like, hey, Scarlet Witch, give her a platform to tell her story. And I think something like a streaming service for that story is a very smart call. I mean, not everyone's going to go into a movie theater see the story of Scarlet Witch unfold, but if it's there at their fingertips on their TV, I bet you they're going to watch it.
Now, do you think they're doing it on the streaming service rather than a movie because they don't think they're going to make as much money as on a movie?
I don't think it's as much of a safe bet. A story like the Scarlet Witch story or the Loki story. These characters are fun in their own right, but they're not like a Captain America or an
They're not
Iron
the
Man.
main. They're not the meat.
Right. They have their own little story arcs. And I think if you make it, like I said, like if you give it to people on a streaming platform where it's just there, I already pay for my subscription. Here's the show. and it ends up being a really great show, regardless of which character it is. It's going to get me invested, you know?
Right. You have all these. I don't know. I don't even want to know how many Marvel characters are. I know there's in the hundreds, and they are slowly, trickling them out with the movies. And now we're seeing these established characters in a streaming service. Do you think, because Netflix had this with 4 series plus a combined series, and I do love the Marvel series on
Yeah.
Netflix. I do love Daredevil, Jessica
Yeah.
Jones.
Oh, yeah.
They're great, especially Jessica Jones. I think that's probably one of the best ones out of the bunch.
Well, and Kristen Ritter is a standout actress who never receives the attention she should. So
No, she
seeing her
doesn't.
have a moment, she's great, man. She's so perfect in that role. Even like just her look, her aesthetic, like yeah, that's a well casted group of actors for the most part.
Right. And
They're they're Daredevil. I remember like watching that pilot and not knowing what to expect and being kind of blown away, um, just by how like brutal it was. So they've done well for the most part. It's a shame they kind of had to end all of them at the exact same time frame because of this whole rollout with Disney. You know?
right. And I fully expect Disney to throw those new series out on Disney Plus. I
Yeah.
see it
Oh yeah.
happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Jessica Jones, I think it's coming out
Hmm.
fairly soon, the new
Yeah. They
season,
released a trailer. They
the
did. They
final
released.
season, right.
Yeah.
I think with the movies and streaming, they're both different. They're different animals.
They are.
Streaming you can watch whenever you want. Movies you only have a certain time frame. Some movies could be in theaters for 4 months, 5 months.
Right.
Some like Hellboy, you're only gonna see it maybe 2, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
less, because that dropped.
Hellboy had an extreme. Well, I mean, it had just a weak start to begin with. Nobody saw it, and it never grabbed the attention of the overall just populace. Like I don't think it really appealed to anybody. And once those reviews started coming out, I think it sits at like last time I checked was it like 14%. Um, and
Right.
every review I read was just saying, you know, like Guillermo del Toro had something with the series, something that this one just failed to capture, and it really like it had heart. And I think this one, the goal was to make it like brutal, like the comics. But once you lose the heart behind it, it's just more fodder, you know. And it sounds like people really just responded poorly to it.
Well, that's the thing. They rebooted a franchise that didn't need it. They had a Del Toro and Ron Perlman. They both wanted to do a third one, but
Mm-hmm.
the studio would not let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the poor reviews and the poor box office for Hellboy, that it was from the fans. Be like, you know what? We want Del Toro directing this. We want Ron Perlman as our Hellboy.
Right. There was nothing wrong with that formula that was broken. The reviews for both those films were damn good. The first and the second. I mean, between the visuals and the
Hmm.
overall performances, and I believe even the box office, like, it wasn't amazing, but I think it was still strong enough that the second one made profit back.
The
Um,
first one I think underperformed,
yeah,
but the second one pretty much doubled.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was one of those things that you could tell it was kind of like it's almost like a John Wick. That series has been like really basting in itself and growing and becoming something stronger with each entry. And you can look at the box office and see each one's made more money because it's resonating more and people are responding more. I think with Hellboy, a third movie in the direction where they were kind of really understanding what they were doing, the universe they were creating,
Hmm.
um, and giving it a chance to breathe and those relationships to grow because I mean, Selma Blair, always bringing her A game. I freaking loved her in that movie as well, and like having that whole relationship thrive. They could have done something really awesome. I think they killed it off prematurely for sure.
They did, and that's the thing that's how where I'm getting with fatigue. We have one of the biggest, box office smashes, Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Came out in April. And I don't believe it's still under Avatar for worldwide.
I think it's slowly inching there. I last time I tracked it, it's under 100,000 away, but it's
And
still
that's That's pretty big.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's doing great, and honestly, I thought it was amazing. So fatigued or not, I definitely enjoyed my experience. Um, but it was also very much the end of an era
It was,
for
and that's
Marvel.
probably why. And plus, it was a phenomenal movie. You released that, and then you released that about 2 weeks after Hellboy. So Hellboy was, and that took over 4,000, almost 5,000 theaters.
Yeah,
Endgame did.
yeah,
So obviously, Hellboy was pushed off to the side.
yeah,
Shazam was put off to the side, and Shazam and Hellboy got released in like back-to-back weeks.
yeah. And Shazam definitely did better. It's at least earned a sequel, I believe. So, and
It
Shazam
did.
got good reviews as well.
Yeah,
So Shazam did fine. It
and
made mark.
what's this? Now we have Dark Phoenix that got released this past weekend.
Yeah,
Spider-Man being released in
yeah,
less than a month.
yeah.
They have a movie called The Kitchen, which is also based on a comic in August. It's got
Okay.
Melissa McCarthy in it. It's like a mafia movie about mafia wives.
Yeah, and it's also got oh my God, Elizabeth Banks from
Moss.
or yeah, Elizabeth Moss. I'm sorry, from Handmaid's Tale, who is amazing in everything she does.
Yeah, it's got
Um,
Tiffany Haddish.
yeah, what a cast. That's a fun cast. I didn't know
Yeah.
that was based off a comic.
And
How
then you got
cool.
Joker released in October.
Yes.
So obviously, this is the point. It's summer movies.
Yeah.
Comic book movies come out in the summer. Marvel kind of made up their own game plan, be like, we're going to release one in February, we're going to release
Right.
one in March,
Right.
April, July.
Right. Right.
So there's no time frame. And plus, with Marvel, they've been releasing 3 movies a year.
That's crazy.
Some very close. I think Captain Marvel probably could have been released in February. I think it was just really too close to Endgame.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
they really wanted to set up. I mean, they had to set up that story arc too, even though people thought she was going to be so much of a larger role in Endgame because they came back to back. I think almost people's expectations were heightened because of that. And I don't want to say they were let down, but she really just did not do a whole lot. In
right, and then you got Spider-Man Far From Home.
yeah,
Is that actually trailer should never have been released until Endgame got finished.
yeah,
They
yeah,
should have literally pushed that back to maybe November.
yeah,
Because you have all this, you have 3 Marvel movies in the span of 4 months.
yeah. It's
That is a lot.
exhausting. It's exhausting when you think about it, man.
It is. It is. And kept so much stuff like spoiler free. They did because Marvel's very smart when it comes to
They
releasing
are. They
spoilers.
are. Yeah.
Uh, Fox, not so much. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that soon.
Yeah.
But
I think the
Marvel's
problem with
very smart.
Marvel, with what you're saying, think about it, is like you never ever have a moment at all where this material is not overlapping into the next film. Like I can't think of a time period where if one movie wasn't out, then there wasn't another one being, pushed in our faces as it's coming. Like it is literally just a constant bombardment of Marvel material. And
Like
yeah,
looking over the past few years, like I'm gonna start just by 2010. There's about 5 to 7 comic book movies released a year.
yeah, yeah,
A lot of it is, Marvel.
right.
You have Fox with the X-Men, which they spurred those things out very fast.
Oh,
Ghost Rider, you had Dread, Oblivion, R.I.P.D., Wolverine, stuff like that, Kick Ass.
yeah,
So you had so many other comics. A lot of
yeah,
them did not do very well,
right,
but the
right,
mainstream ones did.
yeah,
But if you look like back to back, I'm going back in 2013. 2 comic book movies got released on the same day. Red
yeah,
2, R.I.P.D. They both bombed.
yeah. Oh, rip. Oh my
And
God.
then a week later, the Wolverine movie got released.
Yeah,
And that did over 100 million in the opening weekend.
yeah, yeah,
Or it made over 100 million. It only made 53 million opening weekend.
yeah,
But people probably had the bad taste of Origins in their mouth, with
yeah.
that one. But
And that one is a great one. Let's be honest. I freaking love the Wolverine.
mhm.
Yeah, it was a turning
But
point.
all this is it. Do you think that? And plus, that was comic book movies were still I don't want to say fairly new, but they were still gaining momentum.
Yeah, yeah. They were about to enter like that really big peak they had.
Which I want to say, what hit that peak?
Iron Man, I think, is what really started that peak. The growth of the Iron Man series into the Avengers. I mean, that was what really Iron Man was early on, but that really got the wheels turning towards what it was going to become.
Right.
You know?
And that literally started off the MCU. But you also had the Nolan Batman movies, which
Yeah,
were all great, except
yeah.
uh, Dark Knight Rises. It's got issues, but I'll cover that in a review when that happens. Um, but you have all these movies. Are people? Do you think people are getting sick of them?
I mean, there's always going to be the fanboys who have so much to say and so many opinions. So you're always going to have that attention to a certain extent. But I think gradually overall, I don't see how long you could tell these stories before these stories start to become so convoluted. There's no point. I mean, there are
Mm-hmm.
so many plots to follow, you know. And I'm just being honest. Like we've combined so many of them together now that they all rely on each other, and they've done a good job of tying things together. You know, this last Avengers was fantastic. But what I guess my paranoia is okay. So they've been. I think the reason they hit the fever pitch they've had with this all time box office is because they've built it around a bunch of characters that our pop culture
Mm-hmm.
is very familiar with and aware of, and you know, Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk. Like these are characters that have been in our lives for so long, and we respond to them now as this progresses. Obviously, the MCU is going to move forward. We've killed off characters. We've had characters basically be retired to a certain extent, and we have to see a new variation of this character or a new character to take their place. How
Right.
interested the 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 public, you know, the overall majority is going to be in these new stories, I'm not sure, because they're no longer the Chris Evans Captain America, you know, the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, the Scarlett Johansson Black Widow. Like now they're starting to lean on these characters that maybe we're just not going to respond to as well. And I don't know if that's going to draw in as big of a response from the masses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's perfectly because what Hemsworth just re-upped his contract because he
Yes.
loved Ragnarok, working on Ragnarok so much. He upped his contract, and it did. That Thor movie was a lot different than the other two.
Oh yeah, and I love him. Like I could go on about how much joy he brings me as Thor. So like, yeah, that's great. That's
And he
great.
had a lot of fun. You can tell he had a lot of fun working on
Oh
Rag.
yeah. I love that movie. I thought it was so entertaining. It did not take
It was.
itself seriously. The score, you know, it was great. It was great, and the characters got so much attention. You know, I didn't feel like anybody was thinned out. Which in these movies that are based upon so many characters, oftentimes storylines can seem a little thin. You know, they really have to thin them out to make time for everybody else.
Oh,
But I
like
don't feel like that movie did that. I feel like that movie was pretty rich, and then the whole friendship between him and Hulk, I loved. Yeah,
yeah, that's actually perfect phrasing on all of that. That they're doing so much for themselves. Like Disney pretty much owns Hollywood. I'm not gonna lie, they own Hollywood.
oh yeah,
Um, they just got Fox. They got all their properties. They got, you know, obviously they got the Avatar series now too. And it's just legit ridiculous that Disney does has all this stuff that they pretty much have a monopoly on the whole
yeah,
market. But with the superhero movies, every one gets released every few months, and it's a box office smash. Endgame was what, number one for 3 weeks?
yeah, yeah,
Like that
yeah,
one, it literally probably could have made 1 billion
yeah,
in domestically, but I think competition hurt it.
yeah,
So if it got released in like December, like what Avatar did,
yeah,
it would have killed for what, 3 months.
yeah. I mean, and no matter what we say with that, it's still currently the second highest grossing film of all time. So we can say, we could try to predict whether or not it would have done better, but it's already very impressive what that film has achieved. And like we got to acknowledge the fact that it is everything they promised it to be. It's broken all the records. You know, it may not be at number one now, but it's still got legs on it. You know, this film still has some legs. It's still bringing in money. You know,
It's
will it hit
slowly
number one?
diminishing every week, but yeah, people are still going to see it.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, you know, overall combined with what's still coming in internationally, like it's so close. If anything, it makes it more exciting for me. This final the final like race for number one between that and Avatar. I honestly hope it gets it because Avatar's fine, but like
I think the fans are going to make it happen.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
And I think if at all possible, if it's close, like maybe 20 million, 25 million, that I think Marvel might re-release Endgame with something new just to get
Yeah,
an extra 25 million.
smart. Then
Because
yeah, that'll be easy. That'll be so easy.
you got to think the egos at Disney, they want
Yeah,
it. They
they
want
want it so bad. They want it so bad.
it.
And they deserve it, to be honest. The amount of talent they brought out for that movie, like the fact they got them all together in that same room in general is impressive. Like so many respected, talented performers
All in one movie.
made that happen. I mean, the funeral scene alone, getting Michelle Pfeiffer. You're gonna give me Michelle Pfeiffer above all this? Like, I'm on board. I don't
And
care if the rest of the movie
she was
sucks.
only in it for a second, but still,
No,
she
I know, but
still
still, just the fact that they thought to, I'm like, God, good for 'em, Marvel. Good for 'em. You know?
Marvel does. Marvel literally has not done anything wrong. You know, they've had misses in their
Yeah,
whole MCU.
yeah, they have.
Um, Obviously Iron Man 2 wasn't that great. The first two Thors, they were
Yeah,
okay, but they weren't on par. Captain America took a bit for Winter Soldier really took that one off.
yeah.
And you have all this, and it does it. How am I going to word this? With all these movies, do you think the MCU slowly going to die down because of what you said? We're losing Evans, we're losing Downey, we lost Scarlet. Now we're
I
going to
think they're
get
going to have to they're really going to have to figure out a new approach to some of this new material because they don't just have the familiarity to fall back on anymore. So they can't keep, I mean, a lot of these movies, as entertaining they are, they do feel like extensions of each other. You know, like from the way they're shot, they're so big, they're so lavish, there's so much CGI. It all just feels like one big universe. I think if they want to keep our attention, they need to start introducing characters that don't just feel kind of like a retelling process, you know, that we've seen before. We've seen the character, the superhero like introduction story told so many times in so many formats, and it all kind of feels the same, you know. I need a fresh approach, in my opinion. I think a movie like a good example of what I find to be a fresh approach is Logan. That's why the X-Men series, as much slack as it gets, you got to give it credit where credit's due, and they took a chance with a movie like Logan. It does not feel like every other
oh
comic book film out there,
no.
and because of that, it is a masterpiece in its own right because they took a ballsy choice, a ballsy chance. They made a choice there, you know, and it paid off for them.
Yeah, Logan seriously changed. That literally changed the comic book genre because that movie helped Deadpool get a rated R.
Yeah, which it should always be.
It should always be. They already said, Kevin Feige already said it will be a rated R in their universe. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. And Ryan Reynolds, I guess he's coming back, he is the only one that can play Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, he is that character. He's perfect.
But you also, with their acquisition of Fox, X-Men,
Yeah,
Deadpool, Blade, they have all these new elements that they can reboot them, and we're gonna get what, a third X-Men reboot. We're gonna get a third Fantastic Four reboot.
Well, when you say that with the X-Men, it's so hard to say reboot for the sheer fact that it was still technically a
But
connected, cohesive
the
story.
timeline was so fucked up.
It was so. But the fact that they even did it, you know what? Kudos to them, because that alone is an overwhelming story
But
to have to tell.
Apocalypse kind of
Wah, wah.
destroyed the
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah,
Dark Phoenix completely broke that timeline.
yeah,
um, because they really, Days of Futures Past, they integrated them
yeah,
very cleverly. They did it
yeah.
very cleverly. So you think, oh, okay, so they tie down, and then here comes Apocalypse, and be like, what? What? This didn't. There's no mention of this. And then Dark Phoenix, like, I'm not you. The trailers spoiled the movie. If you heard my review,
Hmm, hmm.
they spoiled a very particular death of an X-Men.
Yeah, but they said they wanted to. They announced it.
You don't
They
do
like. I
that.
mean,
You
she.
don't do
And,
that.
well, here's the thing, though. That's a warning sign right there because I think she probably was like, "I'll do this movie, but you're getting me out, and I want everyone to know you're getting me out." And she probably made sure that it got to President because she's tired.
She is. I mean,
Oh,
she can
she's
only do
tired
Hunger
of
Games
President.
so often, or she can do a David O. Russell movie so often.
Oh, she
You
must be
know,
exhausted of that blue makeup. And I'm sorry, but there really only is one Mystique for me. And in one area where I will say that Fox got it right, Rebecca Romaine Stamos as Mystique. To this day, one of my favorite comic book interpretations. Go on.
yeah, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence, she was okay.
She just wasn't Mystique.
No, but she
Uh,
was a good younger version.
yeah, but that, I mean, even like that, and this is the one area where, because we're getting into this event eventually, anyways. Fox, how they handle X-Men, how the outcome of Dark Phoenix is unfolding. It's
Hmm.
something we've all kind of predicted now, because the fans haven't been totally happy. Um, and you're saying, how they were pumping out movies for so long, but there is a gap. There was a gap between Apocalypse and this where there was just no maintaining the buzz whatsoever. And a lot of what we were hearing was about these reshoots that happened, for the
Hmm.
movie that got it up to 200 million, which it came out now that the ending of the movie was originally, they found out, this same ending as Captain Marvel. And
They
the
haven't
reason,
fully said a Captain Marvel. They just said a recent superhero movie.
but yeah, but everyone's piecing the pieces together because originally what's coming clear is that this was going to be a scroll based enemy, which would have fared the film far better if Jessica Chastain was a scroll.
Yes, it would
But
have.
because of that being so prominent in Captain Marvel, they couldn't really do that. They'd be ripping off the ending, so they're already screwed. So they had to go back, switch which alien she was to one that's just completely not relevant, and not
Yeah,
one that.
that was one of my negatives on the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a character that nobody knows about. So there's no reason to be excited. It's not tied into the Phoenix storyline. It's like they've never sat down and looked and said what made the Phoenix work. They've never, both writers now of both of these films never sat down to really think what draws the fans in so much. What about this is so appealing? It's basically like they're like, let's figure out which ways to tell this story in the least appealing way possible. And I just think
Mhm.
people are tired of Fox just not understanding the material that people love.
You're right, and I think this could have been a rushed movie.
Yeah.
Like Fox needed to get this out because it was their last comic book movie.
Oh yeah.
They had to get this out as fast as possible. I'm like,
Yeah.
did you really? Because this movie got completed last year. The reshoots finished late last
Yeah.
year, I think. And then you just rushed it. You put something together. It's not a bad movie as people say. It's not, obviously it's not the worst X-Men movie there. I don't care what
Yeah.
that fucker I read said. This
Yeah.
is not the worst X-Men movie. Last Stand still owns that right. Um, but I don't know understand the hate. I understand the box office, why it did underperform.
Yeah.
You Sophie Turner, she did such a good job. I honestly
Yeah.
praise her. She
Yeah.
did so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see more of her,
Yeah.
but we're not going to see it with Marvel, and that's the bad thing. We're
No.
going to see a whole new cast. We're going to see a new Wolverine. We're going to see new Professor X, Cyclops. We're going to see all that. And that's the bad thing. Fassbender and McAvoy, they killed it.
Yes, yes, but here's one thing, like, and one thing I need to present with what you're saying right here, right now. You got to think about in the great scheme of things. A lot of these actors were ready to have it over. Like, I mean,
They did.
Jennifer Lawrence in general, she was done. If you're going to tell these stories, I mean, I'm sure there's a few performances here that we enjoy. You know, I was definitely a fan of Jean even in Apocalypse. I thought the younger kids did a really good job in making those characters likable in an unlikable film, which is
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason I didn't totally hate the movie. You know, but now like Nicholas Hoult as Beast, like we've seen this iteration several times. This is starting to not work. It's almost kind of pointless if you're going to revamp the whole series, and I mean revamp, to make this work in a Marvel universe. There's changes that need to be made.
There is, and Fassbender, I'm gonna say it right now. He outside of X-Men, he hasn't done a great job. You know,
Yeah,
Snowman, Assassin's Creed,
yeah,
he's not really bangable. McAvoy, he's getting there. You know, he
yeah.
did great in Glass, did great and amazing in Split.
Right,
I'm sure he's gonna kill it in It Chapter Two.
right.
He's making a name for himself. Nicholas Hoult,
Yes.
he's getting there.
Yeah, yeah. I like Nick Holt. I do.
Yeah, I
I like
really
a
liked
lot
him
of.
in Tolkien. I really
Yeah,
liked him in Tolkien.
yeah. I agree with you on that. But like, it even comes down to, I mean, with Marvel getting their hands on that material. I mean, I'm going to speak out as a gay comic book fan. We're a unique niche, okay? One of the things I know that a lot of the gay comic fans, which is there are a lot of us, and we talk about this material. And one of the big reasons I've noticed a lot of the gay fans have really stopped having interest in some of these Fox iterations of these films is because they don't care about like the overall aesthetic of a lot of these characters. Like a lot of whoever designed some of these characters and their costumes and their looks are really playing it safe. If you look at the X-Men, like we've had nothing but like a leather uniform thing for so long. I know a lot of them are hoping that maybe now with Marvel having their hands on the material, um, they're gonna maybe try something just new. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
We've seen the same thing for so long.
I'm looking at Fox's how it came out. X-Men, it opening wise, it didn't do good.
Yeah.
50 million, and then it made 100 million after that. X-Men 2 did a lot better. 3 did great. Then it started trickling down. When First Class came out, it did really good. It got great reviews. I think it's the best reviewed X-Men movie out of the X-Men movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think First Class got it. Days of Futures Past was great, was good too. Then you got Deadpool,
Yeah.
and then when Apocalypse hit, it's like, no, we're not gonna go see that.
Isn't it amazing though, dude, when you think about it? That was a pretty strong streak there. You had what you just said. You had First Class, The Wolverine, Deadpool,
Yeah,
Days of Future Past, Deadpool 2. Like that's all Fox and that was a string of pretty well crafted films. So like it does suck that the fan base has turned so bloodthirsty for Fox because not everything they put out there was shit. Logan was also in that timeline. You know, like I don't think I mentioned we talked about earlier, but we're naming off these movies that kind of came out in this period of Fox's heyday with these films. Not every single one was a huge box office success, but a lot of them were. Days of Future
no,
Past did very well. Um, so it does suck that like for some reason there's like this dark shadow that looms over the Fox series, and the fans get so angry about it, but they weren't all failures, they really weren't.
no, they weren't. Dark Phoenix but statistically, Dark Phoenix is probably the only. It's definitely gonna be the only one that grosses under 100 million.
Yeah,
It is not gonna come anywhere close. There's no way
you're
it's gonna
talking about
gain
within the
67
U.S.
million.
and Canada, right?
In U.S., correct.
Yeah.
A lot of people more focus on the U.S. than worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, a lot of reasons why some of these movies do get sequels, even though they don't do well here in the U.S., are because internationally, that's where a lot of them fucking money's coming from. The
It is.
international total in the long run is what keeps a lot of these movies afloat. Some of these films that we've gotten sequels for that I've really been like, that's surprising. It's because there's a response outside of the U.S. Like the Resident Evil movies were not doing well here, but for some reason they kept making them. Well, outside of America, Japan,
Right.
and so forth, they're still paying for it. You know?
Well, look at Paul Walker's last Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah,
That legit killed overseas.
yeah, yeah,
Killed. That
yeah,
made so much money. That's the reason why that franchise continued. Was
yeah,
just because of that alone. That's
yeah,
the same thing that comic book movies happen
yeah,
is stuff like that.
yeah.
Worldwide is pretty much giving them the money to make a sequel that sometimes we really didn't need.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And I will say that at the end of the day, whether or not and it sounds like you liked Dark Phoenix. I do think one thing that can be said about Dark Phoenix is it was not a sequel that we needed because it's only been so long since Last Stand, and one cannot deny the similarities in the approach of the two films, even down to the overall like aesthetic of Jean's character. The fact that they decided two interpretations in a row to like put her in a trench coat look and
Hmm.
completely ignore. And again, this is kind of going back to what I was saying about like something the gays complain about, but it's overall fanboys in general. We want to see these iconic moments done right. And I just don't feel like anyone feels like they really saw Phoenix in Dark Phoenix, what she's capable of. A lot of the reviews I'm reading that are coming from fan based reviews are saying like they just didn't show Phoenix of what she's capable of in her fullest form. It was just such a downplayed rendition of it, even down to her look and her costume. And the fact they didn't learn from the mistakes of the last one, of Last Stand, it makes me feel like they just weren't listening to the fans.
They weren't. This was probably just a quick release to get a cash grab
Yeah,
off the name itself.
yeah,
Like you can tell Fassbender, very brief. He was in the movie a lot. He really wasn't. This movie was about Jean Grey and Phoenix, and I do think Sophie Turner did great. I'm always going to give her praise for her role. I think she did a really good job for such a young actress. McAvoy actually he killed it for the fourth movie in a row. He killed it as
yeah,
as Professor X.
yeah,
Some of them didn't seem like they wanted to be there. Lawrence was only there. She only agreed to do this movie based off who the director was.
yeah,
That's the only reason why she agreed to do this. Because
yeah,
Kinberg, I believe he wrote First Class.
yeah.
So this was his first directing because thankfully Bryan Singer was out. Because after Apocalypse, he needed to be out. Um, but with the X-Men, you said it best. You were not far. Last Stand got released in 2006. So
Yeah.
13 years.
Oof.
But also go back, Spider-Man. The last one got released in 2007. Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man got released in 2012.
Yeah.
5 years for a reboot.
Oh, and people
Homecoming,
were not
five
pleased with
years.
that. I mean, like honestly, and I think one of the issues again was with um when they decided not to move forward with the second version, the Andrew Garfield version, is because that's like, the first movie was fine. The second
Eh,
one though, it was just rushed out. They kind of
it
just threw
was. It
any
was.
villain in there. They didn't care about the material.
The Amazing Spider-Man, those two movies with Sony. Oh my God. I honestly think both of them were bad. Garfield was not a Spider-Man in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
I really did like Emma Stone as
she did. She
Gwen
was
Stacy.
fun. But the funny thing is, her and Andrew Garfield were dating during filming.
Yeah.
But yet on screen, they had no chemistry. How does that work?
That's
How
why
does
they're
that work?
together now, I guess.
I don't know, but The second one was just awful. I like
Yeah.
literally like wanted to walk out watching that in the theaters. I was like,
Right.
I was
It's
so
just
pissed off.
overloaded. It was bloated. It just didn't feel like the writing cared about the material, you know?
And then they set it up in the post credits for a future, which is never going to happen because they worked out this deal with Marvel, and I think that saved Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
The agreement with Marvel, so Marvel obviously saves another franchise.
Yeah.
Um, and Homecoming, it's got issues like every movie, but it's
I really
still.
liked
You
it.
didn't what?
I really liked it.
I liked it too, but it does have issues though. Like
Yeah.
every Spider-Man movie takes his mask off for whatever dumb reason. He always takes his mask off to show the world who he is.
Yeah.
Um, but that's 10 years. We've had two reboots
Yeah.
of Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's a
That's
lot.
it's a lot. And they're both Peter Parkers. And then you just had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was Miles Morales, which is not part of a universe, but I don't know if Far From Home is going to be going off that.
Yeah,
They
I
said it in
wonder.
the trailer.
I think the animated universe is its own thing, though.
It seems like it, but when they say in the trailer multiverse,
Oh my
I don't
God!
know.
What if we had a crossover?
That'd be interesting. But we all know Mysterio is bad. But that's the thing. There's so many of these reboots, and we're gonna get one for X-Men. I hope Marvel does it smart and
Yeah.
doesn't release it for a while.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think they
talking
need to
10
wait at
years,
least.
but
They
take
need to
your
wait a
time.
good 5 years.
Maybe show in other X-Men that we haven't seen.
Yes. No. Well, you know what I would love, man, and this is just, I mean, this is the fanboy in me, but I think it's also because Fox never really did it right.
No,
Is
they
the
didn't.
is the origin story of the X-Men, and I know some people are gonna be like, oh no, but like, listen, if there's one series that had a very distinct origin story, and which is probably one of the most memorable origin, the first edition, the first comic, everyone knows that cover, everyone knows those costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a true to comic origin story of how the original five became the X-Men in the 1960s, and even if it was just showed as like leading up to the main story, we've never gotten that. It's always been Fox's own take on it, and it's never felt true to the source material. And I would love to see that. Um,
It's kind of like they made their own movie.
they always told their own story, always.
Right.
They always interpreted the characters their own way. They took liberties all the time. um I just would like to see, and like, yeah, we've seen it before, but like, we've seen Fox's take on it. I bet you if Marvel did it, I'm sure they could do it in a way that would draw people in, because people would be like, oh my God, it's Marvel paying homage to their source material, Marvel through Disney, but still. um I just think there's a lot of potential. I don't know, that's just my take though.
There is, and we're gonna see. They're gonna slowly integrate them, and then you got the Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
They want to reboot Blade, which I think they want to probably do it on the net on the streaming service.
Yeah.
Which Wesley Snipes has already said. I don't know if he's bullshitting here, but he's already said they've contacted him. Like, Wesley, you're about like 50 now. I don't think that's gonna happen. Even though
That
I
would
did
be
like him
funny.
as
Yeah.
Blade.
Yeah.
I love the Blade series. Even the
Yeah.
third one, I don't care how people hate it. I do love it. It's
No, I
fun.
love
It's
it.
stupid. So Marvel's got all these new eggs.
Yeah.
Do you
But do
think they're
people
gonna?
care?
People do care, but do you think it's gonna oversaturate it?
Yes, I do. I genuinely do, because I think in coming around full circle with where our conversation started, just in general, um, I think you can only keep people's interest for so long before it just becomes exhausting. I mean, the amount of material and content we're soaking in, it's insane. It's insane.
It
And
is.
everything is cutting edge and progressive, and whether it be TV shows, not just Disney stuff, everything right now is pretty insane and impressive on the scale they're doing it. Um, we know that Disney's going to make the best looking movies, but it's about knowing their fan base, knowing the material. With a lot of these new characters, they're taking risks because who knows how people are going to respond to them. One of the things with Miles Morales is at least you've got to introduce him in a certain way because there are diehards who, to them, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. You
Right.
know, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Some of the fanboys, that's their Spider-Man. A lot of people love Miles Morales, but because of how pop culture is, not everyone's familiar with him. So instantly, are they going to recognize that?
There, I can see that, but we also had the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 game released
Yeah,
last year, which I loved it. I beat it in like a weekend, just playing nonstop, and that's
yeah,
like 22 hours of playing.
yeah.
Um, you play Miles Morales is in it. They set it up for a possible sequel with Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
Cool, good.
So
Okay,
so there's a need and a want to
yeah,
see a new Spider-Man that's not Peter Parker.
yeah. That's fair.
Would
That's
Marvel
that's
do
fair.
that? I
Yeah.
see them doing that in the future when Tom Holland be like, you know what? I don't want to do Spider-Man no more. I don't think he will because I don't think he's even 20 yet. I think he's still got a lot of legs left as
Yeah. I'd
Spider-Man.
like to see them do a few films where I mean, because I know that they were able to do it with the animated one, but maybe find a way to introduce Miles Morales into Peter Parker's current universe. And then when Peter Parker is retired as a character, it just naturally leads into Miles Morales taking over that mantle. You know what I mean?
Similar to what Captain America and Falcon.
Exactly, same thing. Because I want to see the torch pass. Like I do want to have that kind of moment, being like, okay, it's officially he has been knighted. He is now taking over the mantle. The story is continued. I don't want to watch something where the original character didn't play any part in it because you become attached to these characters.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We seen these characters. We all fell in love with Robert Downey Jr. You know, he saved his career. I would
Yeah.
say Marvel saved his career and probably maybe his life too. I'm gonna be completely honest. It could have
Yeah,
saved his
for sure.
life.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He was in a real dark spot when before Iron Man. Um, and he became a legit household name.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, we seen him in the worst of the worst and not another teen movie.
Oh,
You
which I
know,
love that movie though. I love it so much.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's not great or nothing, but it's fun.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, we seen them in the worst. Helmsworth, Thor made him. I
yeah.
don't think I think Cabin in the Woods got released after Thor and or was it Red Dawn got released? One of them got released after Thor just to piggyback off that.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
think it
mean,
was Red Dawn. I think it was
it,
Red Dawn.
but in what you're saying, man, like, I mean, it's just something that I do think that people acknowledge is when you are given the role of playing one of these upper crust Marvel superheroes, you are literally taking on a certain responsibility. And a lot of these actors, the reason they've done so well is because they respect that. Like Chris
Hmm.
Evans, he chose when to step down from the character, but I mean, he knew the amount of respect that people had for him
Hmm.
in playing that role, and he's even like the kind of life he lives and everything. He, I think, really takes that seriously, and that's I think why he has such a huge fan base. Whoever takes over in these roles, if we're not going to get fatigued, we have to have the right actors in the right roles playing these characters well enough that we become invested in them because we've seen it done well
Hmm.
in Captain America, in Iron Man, in Black Widow, even though she's finally just getting her movie now and it's so unfair. But
It's
you
true.
know we've seen these characters played with heart. Um, so whoever takes on the next generation of comic book films, they need to do it right, both in front of the camera and behind.
That's the thing with the Marvel. I don't think see them having actually. They never actually made a bad casting choice.
Yeah.
Villain wise, maybe, but the villains obviously are always Loki or Thanos are the
Yeah.
main villains.
Yeah.
But casting wise, as a superhero, no one's made. They never made a bad choice. People are like, people they question them sometimes, like really,
Yeah.
but they worked. Like people like Heath Ledger when he was Joker, people are like, really, and it worked. He won an Oscar. And the role pretty much killed him. And I really hate saying that because I loved him so much. But the role killed him. He went too far into the role. But Marvel doesn't Marvel doesn't make a bad casting choice. But the thing with Marvel is the roles make a career or they save a career. They never break one.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. But the ones that have done well, their career is been defined by these roles. They'll be forever immortalized.
Like look
And
at Elizabeth Olsen. She was doing some good stuff before Scarlet Witch, Silent House, which I didn't particularly like, but that was it Marcia movie she did a very well job, but
yeah,
it really made it stand out for her.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, I do really love her in that role. Um, and obviously, I prefer the Marvel backstory to what they had to give her because of the whole contract, or the obligations they had and so forth. But I do really like what she did with the role. I really enjoy it, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the TV series for her because she's attached to it. Obviously, it's the same universe, right?
Yeah. It's going to be her and Vision. Supposedly, it says WandaVision, which I'm like
Yeah,
really weird. But before we got a little bit of time left, let's quickly talk about DC before we wrap it up and get
yeah,
into like the figure. DC, they are pretty much rebooting their DCU
yeah.
verse. And do you think people are sick of them? And do you think they've already lost the battle?
Um, no, 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 I don't. And I think the proof in that is that there's a few of these, okay, there's a few of these that have not done well, but overall, look at the ones that have done well. Aquaman broke 1 billion.
Right.
Aquaman, and that was within the last 2 years. They're doing
Yeah.
fine. They just need to pick and choose their castings a little more. But the when they hit the nail on the head, they hit it. I think Gal Gadot is phenomenal as Wonder Woman. The box office response to that shows that
Hmm. Female
people loved
director
it.
too.
Sterling ratings, they can pump out a good movie. They were smart in choosing a female director for that.
Yeah.
They made the right choices with that movie to secure a hit. They need to treat every project like that from now on because when they did release their Batman versus Superman, I think they almost relied too much on like the big bang moments that were geared towards being like, look at what we're doing to impress the fanboys, and they just didn't care about the material they were showing.
Um,
God, I have so many issues with those films.
that is, they completely rushed Dawn of Justice. They did not.
Yeah.
They were like, we're gonna top Marvel right away.
Oh
They were
God.
so eager to take down Marvel at one fell swoop. They threw all their eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
and it failed because Dawn of Justice is not a good movie.
No.
Justice League, not a good movie, and that movie failed
Bomb.
expectations in the box office.
Yeah,
Failed
it bombed.
horribly.
Yeah, it did
And that
not do
was in
well.
November. And this was, I believe, Ragnarok got released at the same time, which legit killed it.
Yeah. Well, and that right there, though, and we talked about this earlier, and this just going off what I just said, Ragnarok works because they really cared about those characters. They gave, for being a comic book movie, they made sure that we were watching human experiences. They wrote these characters from real places. They have real
Right.
relationships, the friendships and the humor, that was all there. Justice League feels as paper as the pages of the comic books that we're flipping through, that the material's based off of. It didn't have any heart to it at all. It felt so contrived and like it felt so step by step. Like there was just nothing to those films. There's no humanity. Um, I don't know.
And it's the same thing as that they tried the opposite of Marvel. Marvel was colorful and
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice, Justice League, they were dark.
yeah.
Especially Dawn of
No humor.
Justice. They were dark. But
No humor.
look what they did with Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
Bright. It's shot, colorful. Aquaman, colorful and funny. Shazam, pretty much a comedy.
yeah. They're learning
So
their strengths.
yeah, they changed their trends, and Shazam, I don't think it met their expectations, but I think it did pretty good in the box office. It got good reviews.
It did well enough to get a sequel.
It did, yes. Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I believe, were both Rotten Tomatoes on 90.
Yeah.
And they
Aquaman is I don't think Aquaman was quite up there. It was in the 70s. But Wonder
was it?
Woman I
Okay.
think is 90. I'm almost
Yeah,
positive.
Wonder Woman is their best, obviously in the box office and
I want to look up Aquaman and see because
but Wonder Woman started the trend of something different, which
yeah.
they're going to continue that next year. The sequel comes out.
Yeah.
Um, then you have Aquaman 2, you got Joker coming out, and then you got the Harley Quinn movie, which is a horrible name. In my opinion,
Birds of Prey.
yes, I think it's the whole, it's Birds of Play, and then the fabulous machination of one Harley Quinn, which I think is just a stupid name. Stupid name.
Yeah, I don't. I'm so confused by their approach with her character, but
And then they're rebooting Suicide Squad.
yeah. Well,
With
no, they're not necessarily rebooting it because some of the actors are coming back.
Will Smith's not. We got a
No.
new director.
Yeah, but a
Which
few of them are. A few they did announce that a few of them are. It is a continuation. It's just different characters.
okay, well, I think Idris Elba is playing Deadshot now.
Yeah, but I heard a rumor that he's not playing Deadshot. That he's playing a different character.
Ah,
We'll see.
gotcha.
I mean, that could just very well be a rumor.
Well, Margot Robbie, she's obviously being Harley Quinn, and she actually was excelled as that Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. But we got another, and we're gonna have another Joker probably because we got a Joker movie coming out, which, as I don't know his origins, I don't know if this is true, but I've never seen any movie with this type of origin.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, have you watched the trailer for that?
I did. It doesn't look like a comic book movie. It
No,
doesn't.
but you know what? Neither did the Christopher Nolan ones.
No,
And
they
people
didn't.
loved them.
His was more realistic.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
Yeah.
Joker is going to be, more realistic.
I wasn't feeling it until I saw that trailer. Now that I've seen the
Uh,
trailer, I'm interested. I don't want to say that I'm like, hell yeah, this is gonna be amazing. For all I know, it could suck. But at least I realize that they're doing something kind of ballsy.
right. Um, we can wrap this up. I got actually like two questions for you.
Yeah.
First one, is the superhero genre killing other movies in Hollywood?
No. You know what? I don't think it's the superhero genre. I think it's just big budget movies making it more difficult for, this is being an independent filmmaker, but smaller scale films. I do think that's the case. But I think, beyond comic book films, I think, no, what we're saying with comic book fatigue, yeah, to a certain extent, we're feeling that right now. But
Right.
overall, the fan base for those movies are so diehard that it's just built in. Like, they're going to do well because people do love the material. We already know it. We're not going in blind. There's a familiarity. And as long as they keep telling those stories well, there is going to be a built in fan base to a certain extent. How long that's going to last, I don't know. I guess it depends on how well they keep telling the stories for the most part. You
Well,
know?
look, when Endgame got released, obviously it made um, huge money the first weekend.
Right.
Set box office, and then nothing else made a lot of money that week. So everybody saw that.
Yeah.
The next week, you had Intruder released. They didn't make anything. Avengers is still top. Then the next one, Detective Pikachu, a very anticipated movie of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Not very well, not money. They didn't bring any money in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think to go off that question you just asked me, then, I'm not going to say it's comic book movies. I'm going to say it's Disney. Because look at this. Look at this. And the Star Wars franchise, Disney owns it now. Now, yes, Solo did not do well. It completely bombed. But, the when you look at the top grossing films of all time, the most recent Star Wars is up there.
Last Jedi, I would say bomb. It did not meet the expectations compared to Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that great of a movie either.
Right. Right. So overall, I just one of those things. I think if you look at the juggernaut in the room, it's Disney because they keep buying up the most well-known titles, and making them part of their library.
And
And
you can
it's just so
throw in the
different.
live action movies too.
Yeah, and then so then you have it where they have all of this money to spend and make these movies just so glossy and big and beautiful. And then these smaller movies, I just guess in some ways people can't compete, maybe, which is a shame, because it's a money game.
It is. Do you think people are they go to Avengers, they see the movie, they're sitting there for 3 hours, and they're like, I don't need I don't need to see another movie for a few weeks. Do you
Me,
think that help
no,
happens?
I mean, I think it depends. I think everyone's different. I mean, for me personally, if there's a movie I really want to see, I don't care if it's comic book or not, I'm gonna go see it. It's just about the material, So, and overall, I love comic book movies, but there are other genres of films that I'm more drawn to, like horror. Horror, if there's a good horror movie coming out, I'm gonna see that first and foremost. But how often is there really a great horror movie coming out? So for me, I guess it's just one of those things. They keep making great comic book films. There's a lot of these that are watchable, that do have good reception. um, as long as they can keep that trend up to a certain extent, I think they're good to it.
Hmm. Okay. One last question. What's your top five comic book movies?
My top five comic book movies. Whew, good God, that is a locked and loaded question. I did not expect that. Um, okay. Just in no particular order. Is that fair?
That's fine. And it could be any comic book movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Um, Batman Returns is up there.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Batman. Yeah, well, Michelle Pfeiffer really made that film for me.
She did.
So I mean, it's just iconic. I remember it. I remember it clearly from as a kid. It just stuck with me. Um, I would say honestly, I'd have to just because it was the first time I had one of my favorite comics translated. X-Men, the first one. Is it perfect? No, but God, there's some moments that I remember like being like, wow, so blown away.
It was really good first attempt.
Yeah, like when they're fighting on the top of the Statue of Liberty, just some of those like iconic sequences, like that was 1999, 2000. That was impressive. The fight sequences with Rebecca Romaine Stamos, like the way they like had her slide up the wall and everything.
Hmm.
So, um, oh, this is kind of fun. Um, okay, I'm gonna have to only because I'm putting Endgame on there, and it's not like I'm still in a honeymoon phase with that movie. Um, it made me feel things. It absolutely made me feel things. There are moments that I cried. I'm not going to deny it. I thought it was just a really wonderfully interpreted
You
emotional journey.
you pretty much go through all the stages of grief.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
gonna
it
lie,
was great.
I cried. I cried especially when everyone came back because I cried happy tears
Yeah.
because
No.
it
Yeah,
was
man.
how they did it was just oh my god.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was amazing. I would say number four. Oh my god, I just I'm honestly gonna say Days of Future Past, but it's the
Yeah.
Rogue cut. Have you ever seen the Rogue cut?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's I'm including that on there because I have it.
It's
And
and it's
it
different. It's special. It's a lot specialer than the
oh
original.
yeah, and like when Rogue sits down and takes over, after she takes Kitty's powers, it's like tying it back into like the very first X-Men. It like made me feel things because remember that first one was very much about it was
Ro-
just as much about Anna Paquin as Rogue than it was
Right.
about Wolverine, and I really thought it was a touching moment. They should have kept it. And then my number five. Ooh, this is so challenging because there's so many of them. Um,
I don't even know how many comic book movies there are. I want to say there's probably over 100,
oh my
maybe.
god, yeah, Yeah, I mean, technically, like, I mean, it's a graphic novel, 30 Days of Night, but I mean, that's a graphic novel. But technically, so is Hellboy. Um, I might even say the first Hellboy because I love Selma Blair in that movie. I love the character dynamics in that film. I just watched it again recently.
That's a very like expanded list.
Yes.
And you don't.
Yeah, it's a little all over the place. Oh no. You know what? I'm sorry. I've got to take Hellboy. Wonder Woman. We were just talking about it. And I just
I
couldn't
know. I
think
was
about
kind
it.
of be like, I know how much you love that movie. I'm very surprised I
Oh
wasn't.
God, it's because we talked about it. Like I almost felt like I just kind of included it. No. Oh my God, Wonder Woman. I saw in theater 6 times.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
when she's running across that damn fucking minefield, and she's up there as a woman in that big metal bustier, look with her hair bouncing, but not looking over sexualized, just powerful. Ugh. She was a badass. I hope she makes 4 more of those movies, and I hope Linda Carter appears in one of them.
She might. She just got her star on the Walk of Fame, so she possibly could.
Yes, I mean, people love her. I'm excited for this next Wonder Woman with Kristen Wiig, and I don't care what people say. People are like, Kristen Wiig's a bad choice for Chitara. I'm like, no, that's going to be great. She's very good with like
You
physical comedy. I bet you she's going to be crazy physical in this role.
you really can't like without seeing anything, you can't
No,
judge.
no. But she's one of my favorite actresses. She's so underestimated as a good dramatic actress, Kristen Wiig. Um, so yeah, no, I think that's going to be great. So yeah, those would be my top 5 with Hellboy on deck.
Hellboy's a little tweener.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh. We talked for over an hour about this.
We did, and I think
Nice.
we've kind of established that there's not much superhero fatigue.
No, I mean, I think as long as they keep coming up with good stories, we're going to see them. I don't care what they're about. They just need to not get lazy.
And I don't think Kevin Feige will do that.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
not, he's going to get replaced. I guarantee you he'll get replaced. Disney will
Right.
fire him immediately if that happens.
But thus far, he hasn't let us down.
No, he's doing a good job. Roger, where can people find you on social media?
Oh, I'm all over social media. My handle tends to be the Scream Queer because I work in horror movies.
Yes, you
Um,
do.
it's a living, but
Yeah, it's definitely you got to check out my reviews of Roger's movies, The Curse of Lilith Ratchet and Fighting the Sky.
hey, thank you for doing those, by the way, and enjoying them because I know you could have easily not liked them, and so I appreciate
No,
that
they
you
were
gave a
fun.
kind
They were
word.
both fun movies.
Yeah, man, I was very thankful for that. Thank you, and I'm definitely gonna keep tuning in. I really love your reviews. You are killing it with this. Keep on doing it, man. I'm enjoying this, and I'm thankful that you had me. I'll definitely be back if you'll have me.
Oh, definitely. We'll definitely have other. There's so many other topics.
Yeah,
like
yeah. And
like
I have things to say. I have opinions.
like we have horror, indie
Yes,
horror. There's so
yes.
there's so much there's so much we can always cover in future episodes. I'll definitely save topics just for you.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I got one in mind just for you, which is about the gay community in film.
Oh, perfect. All right. I can't wait, man. Thank you
That's
so
got
much
your
for
name
having
written
me.
all over it. So the Scream Queer on Twitter.
And on Instagram, and
All
you
right.
can find us on Facebook as well.
And all those links will be in the description below. So you can definitely hook Roger up with a like or a, and make sure you follow him on Twitter, Instagram. He posts consistently. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I post on all of it. Yeah.
yeah, he's a real great guy to know. Very talented actor. What else? Do you have anything acting wise you want to talk about before you?
Yeah, man. I mean, I have a few movies that are out right now. I have Fighting the Sky. You can stream that anywhere. Curse of Lilith Ratchet. It's been out on DVD. You can stream that as well. Other than that, I'm working on a new film with Eddie Langell, based off the lure of the Slua, which is an Irish
Yeah,
demon.
I've seen
And
pictures. It's really good.
yeah, thank you. And then I just did Teacher Shortage with Troy Escamilla in Houston. So that was really awesome. So yeah,
Did you
just watching
have
those out.
oh, why can I not think of her name in that movie? Think she was the principal?
I'm the principal. Are you thinking of Tamara Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah, she's in Halloween 5.
Yes, that's who else. I
Yes.
thought maybe she was the principal. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
she's
she's
I
one of the
talked to her and
teachers.
she's a sweetheart.
Oh, she's so cool. She was so nice, and I'm not exaggerating. She was unbelievably kind. So yeah, I had a great experience with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate that you had me. Truly, truly, this is great.
Thank you guys for listening to this. Remember, subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up. If you want another topic, leave it at the bottom. I'll look through the comments and see what you guys think. Remember, hit that bell for notifications. I'll see you later.